Seattle, 1994. The rain was steady, tapping against a worn garage door. Inside, under the dim glow of a desk lamp, a 30-year-old man hunched over a computer screen. The air smelled faintly of cardboard and burnt coffee. He wasn't tinkering with gadgets or fixing cars. He was building something invisible, something most people thought was a joke. That man was Jeff Bezos. At the time, he wasn't the richest person on Earth. He wasn't even a CEO. He was just a former Wall Street analyst who had walked away from a six-figure salary to sell books on the internet. Back then, the word internet sounded more like a toy for tech geeks than the foundation of the future. Only 0.5% of the world was online. Most people thought it was a fad like the fax machine or pager. Yet Bezos saw something no one else did: the potential for explosive, unstoppable growth. He scribbled on a whiteboard, plotting categories of products he could sell online: CDs, clothes, electronics. But books were perfect. Endless titles, no single store could carry them all, and demand that stretched worldwide. It was the seed of an empire. But to everyone around him, Bezos looked insane. He had walked away from D.E. Shaw, one of Wall Street's elite hedge funds, to sit in a cramped garage with his wife, Mackenzie, packing books by hand. Friends thought he'd lost his mind. His parents quietly worried he was throwing his life away. Still, Bezos had something most people never do: an unshakable belief in the future. He once said, "I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret it. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not trying." That garage wasn't just the birthplace of Amazon. It was the crucible of Bezos's relentless philosophy. Move fast, take risks, bet on the future before anyone else sees it. And it worked. Within months, Amazon was shipping books across the US. Demand grew so quickly that Bezos's tiny team could barely keep up. The garage overflowed with boxes. The dream was no longer just a dream. It was taking shape in cardboard and ink. But behind the excitement was a question that haunted him every night. What if the internet really was just a fad? What do you think? Would you have walked away from a secure Wall Street career to gamble everything on a garage startup? Or would you have played it safe? Jeff Bezos didn't just build Amazon. He lived it, breathed it, and some would argue became consumed by it. Colleagues remember how his laugh echoed through the office. Loud, sharp, almost unsettling. Behind that laugh was a mind that refused to turn off. Bezos wasn't simply interested in selling books. He was obsessed with creating something that could outlast everyone, including himself. He had a habit of asking strange, almost philosophical questions in meetings, questions that threw people off balance. One employee recalls him asking, "When we're 80 years old, will we regret not building this?" That wasn't normal corporate talk. It was existential. Bezos wasn't focused on quarterly earnings. He was focused on legacy. His obsession with customers bordered on the extreme. "Start with the customer and work backward," he demanded again and again. It wasn't about pleasing investors or even maximizing short-term profits. It was about relentlessly focusing on the end user, even if it meant burning cash for years. Inside Amazon's early offices, this philosophy became a religion. Desks were made out of cheap wooden doors, Bezos's way of reminding everyone to stay frugal, to invest in growth, not luxury. Meetings weren't about what was easy, they were about what was inevitable. He pushed his team with impossible deadlines, testing their endurance. For Bezos, compromise was weakness. Mackenzie, his then wife, described him as someone who always needed to know why. Why did systems work the way they did? Why did people behave the way they behaved? Why hadn't anyone else seen what he saw? This relentless curiosity, bordering on obsession, was his weapon. But obsession is a double-edged sword. Employees soon learned that working for Bezos meant sacrifice. Long nights, endless weekends, emails at midnight. He once sent a message that read only, "If you got that, it meant one thing: drop everything and respond immediately." Amazon was no longer just a startup. It was turning into something else, an empire under construction, powered by Bezos's relentless energy. Yet with every breakthrough came another question. How far could he push before everything snapped? because obsession can build empires, but it can also destroy them. What do you think? Does obsession create greatness, or does it simply burn people out along the way? Before the garage, before the cardboard desks, Jeff Bezos was a rising star on Wall Street. He wasn't just another analyst crunching numbers. He was working at D. Shaw, one of the most prestigious hedge funds in New York. By his early 30s, he was a senior vice president, pulling in a six-figure salary, rubbing shoulders with some of the sharpest minds in finance. For most people, this was the dream: stability, prestige, power. But for Bezos, it felt like a cage. At D. Shaw, he came across a startling statistic. Internet usage was growing at 2,300 a year. That number haunted him. It was more than a curve on a chart. It was a tidal wave forming on the horizon. Bezos knew that if he didn't ride it, someone else would. But the leap from Wall Street to the Wild West of the internet wasn't easy. To his boss, David Shaw, Bezos pitched the idea: an online everything store. Shaw listened, then told him to think smaller, safer. Selling books online was interesting, but quitting a secure job to chase it? Too risky. Bezos went home torn. Stay in New York, keep the high-paying job, live comfortably, or gamble everything on an idea most people didn't even understand. He and Mackenzie walked through Central Park, weighing the decision. That's when Bezos revealed what he later called his regret minimization framework. He asked himself, when I'm 80, will I regret leaving Wall Street? Probably not. But would I regret not trying to ride the internet wave? Absolutely. That single thought changed the trajectory of his life. So he quit. Just like that. He traded his tailored suits for jeans, his Upper West Side life for a beat-up garage in Seattle. To his friends, it looked insane, like leaving a fortress to wander into a desert storm. And yet, that was the essence of Bezos: the willingness to abandon security for the unknown. The Wall Street prodigy became the pioneer of an online frontier no one believed in. It was bold. It was reckless. It was exactly what built Amazon. But Wall Street didn't forget him. Investors watched carefully, some betting on his vision, others waiting for him to fail. Bezos was no longer playing by their rules. He was making his own. And soon, the so-called fad of the internet would explode into the greatest gold rush since Silicon Valley was born. What about you? Would you have taken Bezos's bet, or stayed safe with the paycheck? By 1995, the internet was no longer just a curiosity. It was beginning to feel like a frontier, vast and unclaimed. Startups were popping up everywhere, chasing dreams that felt impossible just a year before. Newspapers called it the new Wild West. Investors called it the dot-com boom. And Jeff Bezos was right in the middle of it. When Amazon officially launched as Cadabra, before a lawyer convinced Bezos it sounded too much like cadaver, the site looked almost laughably simple. White background, blue hyperlinks, a logo that looked like it had been made on a home computer. But behind the clunky design was something revolutionary: an unlimited bookstore. Amazon's promise was audacious. More titles than any physical shop in the world. A local bookstore might carry 100,000 books. Amazon offered millions. To readers, it was like stumbling into a secret library without walls. The timing was perfect. As newspapers hyped the World Wide Web, curious Americans logged on for the first time. Many found themselves on Amazon. Orders poured in, so many that Bezos and his tiny team could barely keep up. They packed boxes on the garage floor, hand-wrote labels, and drove them to the post office in the back of Bezos's Chevy Blazer. By 1997, Amazon went public. Wall Street, the same world Bezos had left behind, suddenly wanted in. The IPO valued Amazon at $438 million. To some, it was proof of genius. To others, madness. Amazon was losing money, bleeding cash to fuel its rapid expansion. Skeptics mocked it as Amazon.bomb. But Bezos wasn't chasing profits. He was chasing market dominance. Get big fast became Amazon's motto. The company expanded from books into CDs, electronics, toys, anything people might want. And as competitors scrambled to copy him, Bezos doubled down. He spent millions building warehouses not for today, but for the decade ahead. He ignored analysts' warning that he was digging his own grave. He told shareholders, "It's all about the long term." That phrase became his shield. Meanwhile, the gold rush around him grew frantic. Dot-com companies were raising billions overnight, burning through cash, and collapsing just as quickly. But Bezos's obsession with customer satisfaction gave Amazon something most startups lacked: trust. While others chased hype, Amazon quietly built loyalty. By the late 90s, Bezos was no longer the eccentric guy in a garage. He was the face of the internet economy. Time magazine put him on the cover. Fortune named him Businessperson of the Year. Wall Street, which once doubted him, now hailed him as a visionary. But gold rushes don't last forever. The dot-com bubble was about to burst, and with it, Amazon's very survival would be tested. Do you think Bezos was smart to ignore short-term profits? Or was he just lucky to survive the crash? By the year 2000, the dream had turned into a nightmare. The dot-com bubble burst, and one by one, internet darlings collapsed into dust. Pets.com, Webvan, eToys, names that had been hyped as the future, became punchlines overnight. Amazon was caught in the storm. Its stock, once soaring, crashed by over 90. Analysts declared the company finished. Barron's ran a brutal headline, "Amazon Bomb." Critics mocked Bezos as a reckless gambler who had sacrificed stability for blind ambition. Inside Amazon's offices, panic spread. Cash reserves were vanishing. Investors circled, demanding answers. Employees whispered about layoffs. Survival wasn't guaranteed, not even close. Bezos had two choices: retreat, shrink, play it safe, or double down. He chose the latter. He launched a ruthless campaign to keep Amazon alive. Warehouses were streamlined, costs slashed, and expansion slowed. But cutting wasn't enough. Amazon needed to prove it wasn't just another dot-com corpse. So Bezos did something unexpected. He borrowed $672 million in debt, a staggering gamble for a company losing billions. Critics said it was suicide. Bezos believed it was oxygen. But his true weapon wasn't debt, it was focus. While other dot-coms chased trends, Bezos drilled deeper into customer obsession. He introduced customer reviews, a move that shocked publishers who feared negative comments would kill sales. Instead, it built trust. He added personalized recommendations, making Amazon feel less like a store and more like a personal librarian. Slowly, loyalty grew. Still, the struggle was brutal. In 2001, Amazon cut 1,300 jobs. Bezos's once booming empire looked fragile. His laugh, once loud and unsettling, grew rarer. Even loyal employees wondered if the company would make it. Then came the turning point. Despite the chaos, Amazon reported its first-ever profit in the fourth quarter of 2001. Just $5 million on over $1 billion in sales. Tiny, almost symbolic, but it was enough. Proved Amazon wasn't a dream anymore, it was a business. The Wall Street critics fell silent. Bezos had dragged Amazon through the fire. And in doing so, he'd learned a brutal lesson. Survival isn't about hype, it's about endurance. From that moment on, Amazon wasn't just another online store. It was a survivor of the internet apocalypse, one of the few still standing, stronger than before. But survival came at a cost. Bezos had shown he would do anything, absolutely anything, to protect his vision. And that ruthless streak was about to reshape the company in ways the world wasn't ready for. Would you have taken on nearly $700 million in debt to save a company everyone thought was doomed? Or would you have let it die? By the early 2000s, Amazon had survived, but Bezos wasn't satisfied with survival. He wanted domination, and to achieve it, he unleashed a level of ruthless innovation that would terrify competitors and unsettle employees alike. Inside Amazon, Bezos pushed a culture of relentless experimentation. He encouraged bold ideas but punished mediocrity. If you're not stubborn, you'll give up too soon. If you're not flexible, you'll pound your head against the wall and miss a different solution, he told employees. That paradox defined him: unyielding in vision, merciless in execution. One of his most infamous weapons was the two-pizza rule. No team should be larger than what 2 pizzas could feed. It wasn't about food, it was about efficiency. Small teams moved faster, broke things quicker, and answered only to Bezos's customer-obsessed vision. But innovation came at a price. Former employees described Amazon as a pressure cooker. Unforgiving hours, sky-high expectations, and a boss who demanded nothing less than excellence. Bezos's notorious emails, often fired off at 2 a.m., could terrify even senior managers. A single question mark in the subject line meant someone's career might be on the line. Externally, Bezos turned innovation into a weapon. Competitors accused Amazon of predatory pricing, slashing book prices so low that rivals couldn't survive. Publishers hated him, but customers loved him. And Bezos didn't care who he angered, as long as Amazon grew. Then came the next revolution. In 2005, Amazon launched Prime. For $79 a year, customers could get unlimited 2-day shipping. Wall Street sneered, how could free shipping make money? But Bezos wasn't playing the short game. Prime wasn't about profit, it was about addiction. The more customers relied on Amazon, the harder it became to leave. And while the world marveled at Prime, Bezos was quietly building something far more powerful. Amazon Web Services, AWS. What began as a way to streamline Amazon's own operations became the backbone of the internet. Netflix, Airbnb, even government agencies. Suddenly they were all running on Amazon servers. By the time competitors realized what was happening, AWS was untouchable. Bezos' strategy was brutal but effective. Expand fast, crush rivals, and lock customers in. Amazon wasn't just an online store anymore. It was becoming a global infrastructure. But his rise came with shadows. Behind the sleek website and fast deliveries, workers in warehouses began reporting grueling conditions. Stories of exhaustion, injuries, and surveillance began surfacing. To Bezos, efficiency was non-negotiable. To critics, it was inhumane. Still, one thing was undeniable. Bezos had transformed Amazon from a scrappy bookstore into a corporate war machine. A machine designed not just to compete, but to dominate. What about you? Do you think ruthless innovation is the only way to stay on top? Or is there always a human cost too high? Success has a strange way of multiplying enemies. For Jeff Bezos, every victory Amazon scored came with a new adversary. Bigger, richer, and more determined to bring him down. First came Walmart. The undisputed king of retail watched as Bezos built an online empire that threatened its throne. Walmart executives once laughed at the idea that customers would buy shoes or groceries online. But when Amazon sales exploded, the laughter stopped. The two giants entered a cold war. Amazon dominating e-commerce, Walmart fortifying brick-and-mortar stores, both eyeing the other's territory. Then came publishers. Bezos's relentless price-cutting forced the book industry into submission. He squeezed margins so thin that publishers accused him of destroying literature itself. One called Amazon a monopoly that bullies. But Bezos was unmoved. He didn't see books as sacred. He saw them as just another product to be digitized, disrupted, and dominated. And then, there was Washington. As Amazon grew, so did government scrutiny. Senators accused Bezos of avoiding taxes, crushing small businesses, and abusing workers. The media painted him as a villain, an emotionless billionaire building a company too powerful to regulate. Bezos, usually unfazed, began quietly lobbying in D.C., hiring armies of lawyers and lobbyists to shield Amazon from antitrust threats. Even Donald Trump singled him out. In 2017, Trump tweeted that Bezos was using the Washington Post, which Bezos had purchased for $250 million, to attack him politically. Trump accused Amazon of ripping off the U.S. Postal Service, of destroying mom-and-pop shops, of wielding dangerous influence. Bezos didn't respond directly, but behind the scenes, he braced Amazon for political war. The enemies weren't just outside. Inside, Amazon executives whispered about Bezos's cutthroat tactics. Competitors accused him of spying, using data from third-party sellers on Amazon's platform to copy their products and undercut them. Each accusation chipped away at the myth of Bezos as just a visionary entrepreneur. To some, he was becoming something darker. A corporate emperor, ruthless and untouchable. Yet every time an enemy rose, Bezos adapted. Against Walmart, he expanded into groceries. Against publishers, he launched the Kindle, digitizing the very industry that fought him. Against Washington, he strengthened Amazon's grip on cloud computing, making the government itself one of his biggest clients through AWS. It was a dangerous game. Every new arena he entered created new enemies, more powerful than the last. But Bezos thrived on it. Conflict sharpened his edge, because in his mind, the world wasn't divided into friends or foes. It was divided into the fast and the obsolete. Do you think Bezos made too many enemies on his rise to the top? Or was that the only way to build a trillion-dollar empire? If there's one reason Jeff Bezos didn't just survive but dominated, it's this: he never stopped reinventing Amazon. Most CEOs cling to what works. They build a profitable model and milk it for decades. Bezos did the opposite. Every time Amazon reached a peak, he dismantled it and built something new, bigger, riskier, more ambitious. Take the Kindle. In the mid-2000s, Amazon was already crushing bookstores. But Bezos wasn't satisfied. He wanted to kill the very thing Amazon was built on: physical books. When engineers pitched him an e-reader, he didn't hesitate. He demanded it launch in 18 months, a near impossible timeline. Teams worked around the clock. The first Kindle, released in 2007, sold out in 5.5 hours. Traditional publishers, already weakened, were now at Bezos's mercy. Then came Prime Video. Netflix was rising, streaming was the future, and Bezos wasn't about to be left behind. He poured billions into original content, hiring Hollywood talent, and quietly turning Amazon into an entertainment powerhouse. What started as free shipping morphed into an ecosystem. Shopping, movies, music, all under one membership. And then, there was AWS. What began as a side project became the crown jewel of Amazon. By renting out its cloud infrastructure, Amazon didn't just make money, it built the backbone of the digital age. From startups to governments, nearly everyone became dependent on Amazon servers. While rivals focused on retail, Bezos quietly secured control over the internet itself. But his reinvention didn't stop at Earth. Bezos's childhood obsession with space resurfaced in the form of Blue Origin. He poured billions into rockets, declaring his long-term vision wasn't just retail. It was humanity's survival beyond Earth. "We need to move industries into space to save the planet," he said. To critics, it sounded like science fiction. To Bezos, it was destiny. Through it all, his mantra never changed: it's always day one. At Amazon, day one wasn't a slogan. It was a warning. The moment you acted like a mature, complacent company, it was over. Reinvention wasn't optional. It was survival. This philosophy turned Amazon into a chameleon, one that could shapeshift from bookstore to marketplace, from cloud empire to Hollywood studio. Every reinvention tightened its grip on daily life. Shopping, streaming, data, devices. Amazon wasn't just part of the economy. It was the economy. But reinvention on this scale had a dark side. Every industry Amazon entered, publishing, retail, entertainment, tech, was left shaken, often gutted. Bezos's vision of the future always came at someone else's expense. Still, his genius was undeniable. While others clung to the past, Bezos lived permanently in the future. Do you think constant reinvention is the secret to lasting success? Or does it simply create an empire too powerful to challenge? For all of Amazon's triumphs, the empire Jeff Bezos built cast a long and unsettling shadow. Behind the sleek interface, the lightning-fast delivery, and the convenience billions relied on, there was a darker reality, one that critics called the human cost of convenience. Inside Amazon's warehouses, workers described brutal conditions. Miles of walking each day, timed bathroom breaks, surveillance that tracked every movement. Some employees admitted to urinating in bottles to avoid penalties for time off task. Injuries piled up. Turnover skyrocketed. To the outside world, Amazon was magic. To the inside, it was a machine that chewed through people. And it wasn't just the workers. Small businesses who once saw Amazon as a partner learned the hard way that the company could also be their executioner. Sellers accused Amazon of using their sales data to identify popular products, then launching cheaper Amazon Basics versions to crush them. Competitors called it theft. Bezos called it innovation. Meanwhile, in Washington, the whispers grew louder. Was Amazon too powerful? Antitrust investigations loomed. Politicians accused Bezos of building a monopoly, of dodging taxes, of controlling too much of the digital economy. Even fellow billionaires like Elon Musk took shots at him, mocking Blue Origin as a hobby rocket. But the biggest shift wasn't political, it was personal. In 2019, Bezos announced his divorce from Mackenzie Scott after 25 years of marriage. The world was stunned. Not only did the split reveal intimate details of his private life, but it also handed Mackenzie one of the largest divorce settlements in history, $38 billion. Overnight, she became one of the wealthiest women alive. The once private Bezos was suddenly tabloid fodder, his personal empire just as exposed as his corporate one. Yet even scandal couldn't slow Amazon's momentum. The COVID-19 pandemic, which crippled most of the global economy, supercharged Amazon. As the world locked down, Amazon became a lifeline, delivering food, supplies, and entertainment to millions stuck at home. Profits soared. Bezos's net worth exploded past $200 billion. Critics called it obscene, pointing out that while workers risked their health in warehouses, Bezos was adding billions to his fortune every week. The darker Amazon's image grew, the more Bezos seemed to retreat into the future, pouring money into Blue Origin, speaking about humanity's destiny in space, while questions about Earth went unanswered. The empire was undeniable, but so was the price. And as Bezos prepared to step down as CEO in 2021, one question lingered. Had he built a company that empowered humanity or enslaved it to convenience? Do you think Amazon's success justifies its methods? Or did Bezos cross a line that no company should? On July 5, 2021, Jeff Bezos officially stepped down as CEO of Amazon. After 27 years, the man who had started in a garage with a vision of selling books online handed the reins to Andy Jassy. But Bezos didn't fade into obscurity. He transitioned into something else, something larger. By then, Amazon wasn't just a company. It was a trillion-dollar empire that touched nearly every aspect of modern life. Retail, entertainment, cloud computing, logistics, healthcare, artificial intelligence. Few empires in history, political or corporate, had ever amassed such reach, such control in such a short time. Bezos himself had become a symbol of extreme wealth and ambition. His fortune peaked above $200 billion, making him the richest man on Earth, sometimes trading the title back and forth with Elon Musk. But unlike many billionaires, Bezos didn't just measure his legacy in money. He measured it in scale, in permanence, in inevitability. In interviews, he reminded the world of his long-term philosophy. It's day one. He warned that companies and even civilizations collapse when they believe it's day two, when they stop innovating, stop reinventing, stop obsessing over survival. For Bezos, day one wasn't just a slogan. It was his blueprint for immortality. But immortality is complicated. On one hand, Bezos democratized access to goods, made global logistics seamless, and built a digital backbone that powers countless businesses. On the other, he left scars on workers, on small businesses, on the very idea of competition. His next frontier was no longer Earth. With Blue Origin, Bezos made it clear he intended to spend the rest of his life looking upward. In 2021, just weeks after leaving Amazon, he boarded his own rocket and touched the edge of space. To some, it was a triumphant symbol of human progress. To others, it was the ultimate image of billionaire excess. A man who built his fortune on the labor of millions, now leaving the planet behind. From a small garage in Seattle to a seat on a rocket leaving Earth's atmosphere, Bezos's journey is almost mythic. Visionary, ruthless, unstoppable. But like all empires, the question isn't how high it rises. It's how long it can last. Will Amazon remain untouchable? Or will the empire one day face its own collapse, just like the giants it once outlived? And what about Bezos? Will history remember him as a pioneer who reshaped the future, or as the man who taught the world that convenience always comes with a cost? One thing is certain. From garage to throne, Jeff Bezos didn't just build a company. He built a world. And whether we like it or not, we're all living in it.